After hosting shows in Richmond, Nashville, and Savannah, the Billboard Art Project decided to head up north and chose Duluth, Minnesota for the site of its next show. If you drive in from the south on Interstate 35, the town's landscape opens up and welcomes visitors with a grand view of Lake Superior and the iconic aerial lift bridge. Not far off, in the heart of the city, you'll find the historic Union Depot. This beautiful French chateau-esque building was completed in 1892 and was a bustling hub of activity for much of the 20th century. To this day, you can still catch a ride on one of the old steam locomotives that billow white clouds as they pull in and out of the station. Once an industrial port boom town, the friendly city of Duluth now features a thriving arts community and is home to many wonderful restaurants, cultural events, and local personalities. During our stay, we took some time to visit the Duluth Art Institute and got to sit down and chat with local artist and project participant Scott Murphy.
My name is Scott Murphy, and I'm a commercial painter. So that's my occupation. Roll a lot of walls, paint a lot of commercial buildings, and I'm still hanging on to my past as a billboard painter. I still like painting murals, and pictures of what I'm working on right now. So as I'm getting older, I'm doing more and more murals. Way back when, like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I was driving down the road and there were some guys putting patterns on a billboard on location. And I didn't understand what they were doing, and I drove by the next day and then they were painting it. So then I stopped and saw what they were doing. I said, man, that'd be fun to do. So I started calling around. I was out in the cities at the time, and then called up in Duluth, and I said, yeah, we've got an opening. So I went and tried out, and boom. It was like the best. It was like when I did the trial, I realized I really want to do this. They give you so much paint for starters. You get all these there's nothing on a tube. It's all out of quart cans of oil paint. And you're working with 3-inch and 2-inch brushes, and you just go. And you produce these huge images every day. And I just really love it. And I learned to paint doing it that way. I mean, I could kind of paint out of art school, but once you paint every day seriously, even if you're reproducing images, you really do learn color and all the things, and color value. Well, at first we'd paint on metal sections. Like on a 14 by 48 billboard, there were 20 metal sections that hung on a rail. And then after they were painted and varnished, the construction crew would take them and put them on a truck, load them up, install them on location. They'd put them up there with a crane. As time went on, as the industry was changing, it was changing over to digital, and the first thing they started was putting things on vinyl. They'd print them out in vinyl, but we still paint it, even though the stuff was coming into play. Well, we'd white those used vinyls out, and then we'd paint on them again. So they got their money's worth out of everything. So painting on vinyl wasn't bad. Painting on steel was the best because it's so smooth, but vinyl wasn't bad to paint on. I was constantly stepping back, but how I did it, I just bought an old cheap camera and looked through the lens, and that would reduce the billboard so you could see it from a block away. Because when you're in the studio, you couldn't get back that far. Well, I did it for 17 years, so I think my last year was 2002 maybe. I think I started, was it 86? Something like that. It was quite a while, but it was that was a really important thing to have happen for me, because I would have lost interest in the whole painting thing, because it's tough to get when you're not painting every day, if you're just working somewhere where you're not painting every day, it's tough to keep going and keep learning if you're not making money when you're doing it. Well, it's a production shop. You're there to make sure the stuff keeps moving out the door, and I mean, you just kept showing up, more stuff to do. And if you weren't getting it done, they'd get somebody in that would. Ooh, that's a tough one, because each one was different. And they always asked us in the beginning how long this is going to take. And rarely did we even come close. Like I remember one time there was I think it It was a mortuary billboard, and it was like all marble. The whole billboard was marble. And you thought, oh, this is going to be horribly complicated. It's going to take a long time, but it was so simple to do. You get the color on there, and you just put a few slashes in it, and it looked really good. And it's like, you get it done really fast, and like, oh, and then you're a hero for a day. The next day, something comes along really mundane, something like this. It takes forever, and it's like, oh, you're just doing terrible, So it's like, you never knew what you were going to run into. Well, I had a fun project recently. It was a library project. The curved surface that they had was just pure luck, because that surface was meant to have something painted on it. It really was, and it was just gray for years, and it looked horrible. And that whole thing had a kind of a ghetto feel to it underneath that library. You put the color in there, and all of a sudden, it's a whole new day. It just transformed the space from yeesh to a little livelier. It needed a little something. I did one down in the cities that was on a tough little intersection on University Avenue in Fairview, and there was this terrible white wall, and it just changed it from just being downtrodden to this. It just got your mind off the whole thing, and the Chamber of Commerce even took a picture of it down there and put it on the cover of their Chamber of Commerce book, the phone book or whatever it was. But it did. People really liked it. I got a lot of positive feedback from it. I did a 48-footer for the depot, funded by the Depot Foundation, and that theme was art, culture, and history of Duluth. Like the theater was in there, and the Art Institute, the Historical Society. There's like a sense of randomness to it, which saved me in a way, because you get an image that you like, boom, you put it on there, and you go to the next thing, and then try to work them all together. And I put people that I thought had something to do with art, history, or culture in Duluth. It wasn't that hard to do, but in a way, it was like what you didn't put in. I think you had advertised it on aminartist.org. I think there was a little blurb on it, and I followed, and that was interesting to me. It was really fun to see my stuff on the billboard. I got a kick out of it. There was something it really hit home with me because from my past. It's the fact that my image was on there again, and I was dealing with a billboard somehow. Because I've never really gotten over getting out of that business. You kind of become what your job is. And if you really, really like your job, it really becomes part of you. And then to have that ripped away, it was really tough. It was tough to, there's not a day I don't go by a billboard and say, man, that'd been fun. That would have been a fun paint. And it's funny though, as the years went on, when the painters were doing these billboards, they would somehow always lend themselves to the painters to have something fun to paint, I think. Because when the salespeople are running it like they are now, you rarely see an interesting billboard. I always want the painting to have a presence from a distance. I'll always work on that, and whether it's legitimate or not, even on a smaller painting, I still want it to look good from 5 feet or 10 feet. At 30 feet, who cares? If it's a small painting, you're not going to see much. But I still have that in my head just because that was drilled into my head for years doing billboards. So just you got to get your values right. You got to get there so it's readable. You've got to be true to what you're trying to reproduce. I really like the idea, like when we were standing out there watching those images just keep passing by, it was just in the context of the environment we are in. Like the orange roadkill ones. Those are hilarious. Roadkills on a billboard next to the highway was kind of ironic. That was funny. You throw these images up, and it's almost like no matter what it is that's up there, it changes the environment a little bit. But it's also just as mundane as the environment is too. But there's something really powerful, I think, that I really liked about, especially the hand-painted billboards that were up. And some of them were quite beautiful. You had up close the stuff that was going on, because you can paint things relatively loose. Because from a distance, that's when all the things would happen. The black and white images as a group were really strong, and I don't know why. But they really looked good on there in context with that nice background. In the future, hopefully, you can get nice locations like that, where people can stand and look at them. If there's a little room to park and that kind of thing, because that was really fun. I like that gal who did she had the green road signs with the mileage on. that one hit home pretty well. You know, how many was it, 6,000 plus to Misrata or whatever. That really kind of made us all on the same planet somehow. You know, you could, oh, I mean, the illusion was nice that you could actually drive out to the Middle East.
Right.
And it really, you know, I mean, there's something really ironic about it that, and which I think lends to your project, that it's very up to the minute. I mean, it isn't, you know, and this is new ground in a way. I mean, you can have people's thoughts, you know, come from somebody's little office somewhere out into the public pretty quickly, and I think there's a power to that I really got a kick out of. Oh, I think it'd be great. I think it'd be good to make things specifically for the project, and not necessarily even painted things, you know, or you know, maybe combinations of things. I think it would be really fun to put subtle imagery out in Washington, D.C. I think that would be fun to get out there. And I think the subtler the things are, the better, because you can probably get by with more, I would think. But I mean, it works both ways. That's no rule. I mean, who knows what the rules are? There's so many avenues when you're putting things out in the public. People aren't going to a gallery, they're just passing this thing on the highway. And it's a whole different change-up where you're getting a different audience, which is wonderful. You know, the gallery goers are expecting to, you know, they're going to expect to see this, or maybe they've got an art history background or this or that. But people driving down the road, you know, boom, it's going to be a whole different reaction to those guys. Who knows what you're going to get out of it? One of the things I really like about that project is it's a relief from the constant commerce. It's just buy, you know, blah, blah, blah. Just people are just, it's like taking a pill. All of a sudden it doesn't hurt anymore. You're just, you know, it's just a relief from the whole thing. And I think the world could use a lot less push to buy. Right, that alone, I mean, even if the pictures are terrible, which they weren't, just that's just one leg of the many different things you got going for you on that project. My guess is the billboard people, their problem is people just get fatigued. That the billboards are just this one-note song of no matter what color and what font they use, they're still at the end of the day selling you something. You know, and if they have to splash a woman up there to do it, they're going to do whatever they have to do to try to get some kind of a hit attention out of all these viewers, supposed viewers. The thing I think is going to happen that's going to help with this kind of a project is that people will start looking at billboards in anticipation and maybe it won't be selling them something. If you get that little payoff someday where you get to see some sweet little image that somebody sent to you randomly, to me that would get you to keep looking again. You know, I'm sure people are going to be looking at that site wishing and hoping that project shows up again.